Today is Friday, April 9th, 2021, and this is your PTE News Break. I am your host, PTE, also known as Permission to Exist, and this is the time of week where we just hang out, catch up on the latest and greatest going on in the country and in the world. So, welcome everybody. It is so good to have you. Why don't we jump right into our stories? We have quite a few this evening, and I do believe this will be another long one. Not for sure, but I do think this will be another long news break. So, for those of you who like the long news breaks, here you go. I hope you guys have had a great week. All right, why don't we start off? Just kind of a disclaimer, this show has quite a few like sad stories in it. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. But it's been a sad week. It's been a sad week. It's been a violent week. Like, man, like I don't know energetically what's going on, but why don't we get started? Okay. So hip hop is in mourning, really worldwide, but in particular in the United States of America. Hip hop lost a legend today. Dmx passed away today at the age of 50 after suffering a heart attack. Okay. And his family said that he fought till the very end. He was in a coma for about a week. So I think there was a lot of us who thought maybe, just maybe, he might make it, like he might pull through. But unfortunately, he did not. So it says the Grammy nominated star's music inspired countless fans across the world, and his iconic legacy will live on forever, his family said in an emotional tribute. Dmx has died a week after suffering a heart attack. He was 50. The rapper and actor born Earl Simmons died at White Plains Hospital in New York on Friday. We are deeply saddened to announce today that our loved one Dmx, birth one name of Earl Simmons, passed away at 50 years old at White Plains Hospital with his family by his side after being placed on life support for the past few days. Okay, so there's a picture of Dmx. Looks to be about circa like late 90s, I think. This is giving me late 90s vibes right here. So it says Earl was a warrior who fought to the very end. He loved his family with all of his heart, and we cherish the times we spent with him. Earl's music inspired countless fans across the world, and his iconic legacy will live on forever. We appreciate all of the love and support during this incredibly difficult time. Please respect our privacy as we grieve the loss of our brother, father, uncle, and the man the world knew as Dmx. We will share information about his memorial service once details are finalized, okay? So Dmx is gone, you guys. Pretty sad stuff. Dmx, when I think of Dmx, honestly, it takes me straight back to middle school, is I think when that first album came out. And, like it's just pretty much like kind of woven into the fabric of many of our lives. So pretty sad. He did a lot of movies and things like that. Everyone knows of his personal struggles. And I think we all were just hoping that this would be one of those stories where it's like a total, I overcame everything, and some might say in a way he did, because we still don't quite know the cause of death. And there's a rumor going around. It's not related to drugs, has nothing to do with the heart attack. I don't want to perpetuate the rumor here. Maybe I'll save that for a deeper PTE when we get back over there someday. But there's a rumor that he took something. That's all I'll say. About a week prior to this. And it's his family who's saying this. And that's all I'll say, because I don't want to perpetuate a falsehood. Oh, that's right. I was supposed to issue a correction at the top of the show. I'll issue it in a minute, okay? So rest in peace to Dmx, one of hip hop's legends, one of the soundtracks to many of our younger lives. Before hip hop died entirely. Okay, so, we'll be seeing and hearing about this a lot over the coming weeks. Rest in peace to Dmx. And before we go into our next story, I do want to issue just a quick correction from our previous Newsbreak number 24. So, in Newsbreak number 24, I was talking about the suspect of the most recent attack at the Capitol, the one involving a vehicle and the one where, unfortunately, a police officer, a Capitol police officer, lost their lives in that attack. And during the news break, I made the assumption that this individual was of a certain political affiliation, in particular, the right wing. I alluded to that. I don't think I said it outright, but I strongly alluded to it. And I also strongly alluded to his race because, I mean, it's kind of been going down like that. And the Capitol has been a very particular target for a very particular group recently. So I just kind of made the jump in the leap, but I was actually completely 100% wrong. He, as far as we know, is not associated, excuse me, with any right wing groups, and he's not white. So I apologize for making that assumption and alluding to that. And that is why we are supposed to wait until we have all the facts before we go jumping to conclusions. Now, some have said that he was associated with a particular religious group. However, that has yet since been disputed. So, at risk of perpetuating even more incorrect information, I won't perpetuate it here. But I did just want to go ahead and correct that and just let that be a lesson to myself and everybody that even though all the dots point in one direction, you have to wait until all the facts come out before you come to your conclusion. Okay, so there's me issuing my correction. Why don't we move on with our next story? Rest in peace to Darkman X. And other high profile passings today, this all happened today. Prince Philip, the husband of Britain's Queen Elizabeth, has died at age 99. Says His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Philip married, oh my, his third cousin Elizabeth in 1947. So it is true. He became British consort to the sovereign after King George VI died in 1952. The Duke of Edinburgh had taken up more than 22,000 solo engagements, 637 overseas visits, delivered an estimated 5,493 speeches, and worked as a patron to almost 800 organizations, okay? And it says the House of Windsor has lost its patriarch, Prince Philip, the Greece-born royal, who as the husband of Queen Elizabeth II was the longest serving consort to a British sovereign, died Friday. He was 99. Okay, so that's another high profile passing. I have a lot of UK viewers, so I'd be very interested to those of you who live in the UK, like what's the mood? Because I don't really know how you guys feel about them for real. Like, I don't know if they're like beloved or what. So I'm very curious what the sentiment and the mood in the UK is right now. Are y'all worried about the Queen? Like, how do these things work? But Prince Philip has passed away today as well. So it's in the atmosphere, man. Rest in peace to the prince. Let's move on, you guys. Let's move on to some non-passing away news. Yeah, 99 is a long time. That's a long time. Like, I can't even fathom that. Like, can you imagine how many times you've seen the world change in that time frame? And then have it from your point of view? Anywho, crisis was averted this week. So this is no longer as high a threat level as it was at the time when it was all happening. But long story short, they thought this reservoir in Florida was going to completely collapse and flood neighboring cities, not cities, I'm sorry, the neighboring community, as well as like a local highway, things like that. And I do believe crisis has been averted. Let's see if this is a video or one of those insufferable listicles. I don't think that's what they're called. I got to figure out what they're called. Infographic?
Well, Lloyd, you just mentioned there right there for a second. They have expanded the evacuation area to the south.
anyway, you can still get a perspective. The breach is like right under the plus sign. This thing is like tall. So we're pulled out. So it looks very small to us, but this is like, God, it's so hard to explain. This thing is huge, basically. It's way bigger than it looks. I'm just going to let it play. So it's hard to get perspective of how much water, toxic water at that, was getting. See, it doesn't look like that big a deal. It's like, so what? It'll just go into the plains, right? No big deal, right? Well, apparently their concern was if this thing goes, a 10 to 20 foot wall of water would have washed outward from this location, basically. All right. So is that DeSantis? He looks terrible. That's not Ron, is it? All right, let's read. Can you hear me? I just saw someone say they didn't hear. Oh, you didn't hear anything? Yeah, it was weird. It was weird sounding. All right, I'm going to assume that the sound is back and I'm going to keep going. Okay, so we can hear you, we can't hear the videos. Okay, yeah, it was choppy. I could hear the choppiness too, so I muted it. All right, let's read. It says hundreds of residents around Piney Point have been asked to evacuate as 2 to 3 million gallons of water per day flow from a leak in a containment wall. Officials say the stack collapsed further despite overnight efforts from state and local crews. So this is 6 days ago, you guys. So this is no longer current. I should have pulled a current one. Long story short, they lifted the evacuation order, and I do believe they have it under control because they started pumping water out of this thing into the Tampa Bay. So those of you who like to eat fish and go fishing and you live in the Tampa Bay area, I wouldn't eat that fish for the next couple of years. Sorry to the fishermen and all the people who make their money that way. I'm not trying to hurt your business, but they just pumped millions of gallons of wastewater into the Tampa Bay. Okay. So it says, on Saturday morning, people within a half-mile radius of the site were asked to evacuate. Saturday evening, the evacuation area expanded to include 316 additional homes and several more businesses. Residents 1 mile to the north and half a mile to the south were asked to evacuate on Friday evening. Officials say the Manatee County Central Jail, which is located to the west of Piney Point, is not impacted. That's so messed up. So they left all the prisoners there, but they evacuated the residents. Let's see here. Let me get an update article. Let's see. One sec. Let's just get an update on this situation. I was freaked out by it because I'm like, Florida is already flat. Update on reservoir breach, Florida. Welcome to everybody in the chat. And for a minute there, they were very concerned about a second breach. Let's see if this will give us an update. Okay. All right. Yes, this is updated. Okay, let me pull you back up. Shout out to Florida and the Tampa Bay area. How you guys feel about this? It's so pretty too. You wouldn't even know that it was like, it's not like, they claim it's not radioactive. They say it isn't, but you know, they lie sometimes. Florida reservoir breach is under control now. Catastrophic flooding fears ease, but environmental concerns remain. So now that we're pulled out a little further, do you see how much water it is? It's like you would be like almost like microscopic, not microscopic, but you would be very small on this picture. These are like full grown trees, I think. I don't think these are bushes. I think these are all trees. So that should give you an idea of how big and tall this thing is, okay? So it says crews on Tuesday pumped enough wastewater from a retention pond into Tampa Bay to control the threat of a catastrophic breach that had the potential to send a massive wall of water into the surrounding area. Last week, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection approved the pumping of industrial wastewater from a retention pond at Piney Point, a former phosphate plant, in response to the facility's second leak in a decade. The wastewater is about as acidic as black coffee and contains elevated levels of phosphorus and nitrogen, which can feed the algae that causes red tide. After pumping more than 30 million gallons of wastewater each day into Tampa Bay, the amount of water in the Piney Point retention pond has dropped to under 300 million gallons, down from approximately 480 million gallons last week at this time. More than 300 homes and multiple businesses in the area around Piney Point were evacuated. The order was lifted Tuesday afternoon after officials determined there no longer is a threat of catastrophic flooding, a sign that the immediate crisis appears to be over, even as major environmental concerns remain. Okay, so that's kind of the latest. Here was the evacuation area. And here was my concern. Y'all know I think about these things, okay? So here, the red zone is the evacuation area. And if you can see this little red outline, that's the actual reservoir area, okay? Y'all, Tampa Bay is right here. So if all that water gushed out, isn't it essentially creating like a massive lake? And if it's creating a massive lake, what's to stop it from just joining together with Tampa Bay? Do you see what I mean? Like, what's to stop it from just becoming one with itself? I'm just asking. And actually, it looks like that could happen because look, the red goes down to this Bishop Harbor area that already has feeders from Tampa Bay. Bishop Harbor is a feeder from Tampa Bay. So you know how water is, like once it starts touching each other, they just like merge. I'm just saying. But the other part of the story, it's probably somewhere buried in this article, but they've known about this for a long time, you guys. They've known about this for years. So, and people, because this is an abandoned wastewater facility. God, look at that water. It's so beautiful, I think. That is beautiful, right? Or is that algae? I don't know. It looks pretty to me. But anyway, maybe not. It says aerial photos of Piney Point retention pond wastewater leak in Florida. Oh, great, PTE. You think wastewater is gorgeous. That's just awesome. From Suez Canal to pretty wastewater. It's just so hard to wrap your mind around because it all looks so flat. And it just kind of looks like well, so what? Like it'll just flow out into the surrounding area. But here's what I don't think I'm processing. I think it's also deep. So it's not just flat, it's flat. Well, not flat, but it's not just tall, it's tall and deep. Ooh, that's pretty. I don't care if that is wastewater. That's pretty. That's some pretty wastewater. Or is that the wastewater? Poor Tampa Bay. Don't eat that fish. Y'all might not want to eat that fish for a few. Wow. Yeah, I guess I could see how that would be a problem. If this is like, okay, so these are palm trees, you guys. You see how the, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. Okay. When you come to understand that these are palm trees, and we know how tall palm trees are, right? Dang, if it would stop doing this little view previous image thing, you see them. The palm trees are kind of right by the road. You know how tall palm trees are, right? So the leak is coming out of this little area right here where this tube is leading up to. And the hill is coming up towards us. Like you can't see the top. The hill is coming to us. So now do you see why it's a problem? In other words, the pictures do it no justice, okay? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I definitely see. And this is like a building right here. Palm trees. Yeah, that's a problem. Good thing they got that under control. But it from this view, it looks like, oh, what's the problem? It just looks like a lovely lake. So anyway, they got it under control, you guys. Good luck out there in Florida. It looks like they're letting people come back home and stuff. So I wouldn't come back home until they had it completely sealed off and fixed. All right. So, and that was just another article from that. Let's move on to more natural occurrences in our world. A volcano has erupted on the island of St. Vincent, you guys, in the Caribbean. Yeah, it is crazy how they stored that much water. That's insane. So, man, I don't know how to say that. Is it La Soufriere? On the main island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, last erupted in 1979. It sent two explosive plumes of ash and smoke on Friday, and 20,000 people fled. Look at that, y'all. Like, I know it's very dangerous and scary, but God, that's so pretty. It's like otherworldly. It doesn't even look like it's from this planet at all. But yeah, so the volcano went off. Let's read about it. Kingstown, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a volcano in the southern Caribbean that had been dormant for decades, erupted in a billowing blast of gray smoke Friday, spewing clouds of ash for miles and forcing thousands to evacuate. The volcano, known as La Soufriere, on the northern tip of the main island of St. Vincent, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, had started showing signs of renewed activity in late December. It moved into an explosive state on Friday morning. It was a very, very loud bang, said Shaquille Hadaway Williams, a St. Vincent resident, describing the moment the volcano erupted. Soon the smell of sulfur permeated the air, he said, followed by clouds of ash, with stones falling on roofs and flashes of volcanic lightning in the sky. You never see something like this. I can't get over the concept of volcanic lightning. Like, you're just over here making your own little lightning storm? Really? I told y'all this is a weird place we live in, man. I don't think we even begin to understand where we really are. I really don't. I know science would say otherwise, but I don't think we have a clue. The country's emergency management agency said the ash fall had been registered as far as the country's international airport on the southern part of the island, more than 12 miles away. While an ash plume had billowed 20,000 feet over the Atlantic Ocean. The morning eruption was followed about 6 hours later by a second explosive eruption that was not as extensive. It says video clip shot in Chateau Belair, a town on the foothills of the volcano, showed the sky darkened by ash as evacuees wearing face masks trudged through the streets, lugging their belongings. Other clips posted on social media showed homes and streets blanketed in grayish white ash. Let's see if we can get one of these video clips. Ooh, I wasn't expecting that.
Hurry up, if you're coming, hurry up, if you're coming. This is what happening right now. Hurry up, if you're coming. As you can see on the ground, it's ashes, you know? Ashes fall. Yes, please. Yes. We have it locked already. We have it already. Don't worry.
Oh, man.
Hurry up, if you're coming.
The chat says more birth pains. Yeah. There's been earthquakes all over the place. Now volcanoes are going off. Where was the other volcano last week, you guys? What was it? It wasn't Ireland. It wasn't Norway. Where was that other volcano? There was a volcano going off last week. Now the volcanoes are going off in the Caribbean. LA just had like a little earthquake, or like a little earthquake swarm a couple days ago. Man. We're not on a deeper Iceland. Yes, thank you. It was Iceland. I'll save all these thoughts for a deeper PTE, but um, so the folks that live in this area, island of St. Vincent in the Caribbean, good luck to you guys. I hope you're all able to make it to safety, and I hope the situation passes for you soon. Now, here's my question. Do all volcanoes that erupt eventually put out lava, or do they sometimes just sit there and smoke and then go back to sleep? Or do they all eventually put out lava? Just curious. I'm just trying to gauge everything. That's all. So we're going to move on to another story. It's very graphic, very violent. Everybody does not make it. Okay. Really, really bad outcomes for everybody involved. Just like to let you know to set your spirit up as we get ready to talk about this, but it's just so wild, you guys. Like, so much has been going on in terms of violence this week that it's just like, America, what is up? Well, we know what's up, but like, it's so much and so often. I literally can't keep up. I can't separate the stories in my mind. And it's to the point where, when I go out in public, like, I'm looking at people up and down, I'm looking at their face, down to their shoes and back up again. I'm surveying all the exits. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the most random, regular places, like the gas station, the grocery store. And I'm like, this is so sad that we have to live this way now. Because on any given Sunday, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't know. Biden passed some legislation this week regarding guns and firearms and things. He passed specific legislation around something called ghost guns, which are basically guns that you buy and assemble yourself, like Legos almost, like adult Legos, like dangerous adult Legos. So he banned those. So he's trying to do something, but I think the problem is too far gone. I think the problem has been too far gone for a long time. The issue is we have a very large number of people in our society who are simply not well. They don't value life because in many ways they don't value their own lives. So if you want to start to curb gun control and gun violence, yes, pass reasonable, legislation. But what you need to start focusing on are, why are there so many people in your society who have no problem taking a life? They have no problem. Like it's literally nothing to them. Nothing. Like, it doesn't faze them at all. They don't hesitate at all. Why do you have a society full of people who will not hesitate? That's the question. Versus other societies who they'll fight each other fist to fist, hand to hand combat. Or they might have like a baseball bat, and now they're swinging baseball bats at each other and, making contact, and someone loses their bat. Now they're getting beat with a bat. I'm not saying a bat can't be dangerous. What I'm saying is, why is the first instinct, I'm just going to wipe you out completely? You have a society full of people who are okay with that, perfectly fine with that. That's what you need to fix. Everyone says mental health, mental health. Okay, well, mental health is more than just going and talking to a counselor. You have to target the right things in mental health. So in targeting the right things, you need to ask the question, why is it so easy for you to just take a life? Like it's nothing. So with that said, we're getting ready to go into a very graphic story. I'm sure many of you heard about this, but former NFL player Philip Adams kills 5 in South Carolina, then himself. Ooh, this is little. Let's see here. That helps a little. Former NFL player Philip Adams fatally shot 5 people, including a prominent doctor, his wife, and their 2 grandchildren, before later killing himself. York County Sheriff Kevin Tolson told a news conference Thursday that investigators had not yet determined a motive in the mass shooting Wednesday, although it has yet since come out that they believe the motive is because this doctor who was treating him essentially cut him off from his his meds. I'm assuming his pain meds, some type of prescription drug that the doctor had prescribed him. And my assumption, and this is just me speculating, is that maybe he had started to misuse them, which happens often. And it is the doctor's responsibility to cut off a patient who they believe is misusing a drug. That's what doctors are supposed to do. They're not supposed to keep pushing them to you. A lot of doctors have actually ended up in jail behind that. Once they discover someone has an addiction, and instead of them doing the right thing, they just keep pushing the pills to them. Some doctors have gone to jail for that. Pill farms, all that stuff. So it appears that this doctor had cut this individual off, and this was his reaction. It says there's nothing right now that makes sense to any of us. Dr. Robert Leslie, 70, and his wife Barbara, 69, were pronounced dead at the scene, along with their grandchildren Ada Leslie, 9, and Noah Leslie, 5. A man who had been working at the home, James Lewis, 38, from Gaston, was found shot to death outside, and a 6th victim, Robert Shook, 38, of Cherryville, North Carolina, was flown to a Charlotte hospital where he was in critical condition, fighting hard for his life. It says at Thursday's news conference, Tolson played audio of 2 911 calls related to the shooting. The first from an HVAC company that employed Lewis, and the other person doing work at the Leslie home. One of them, the caller said, had called him screaming, saying that he had been shot and his coworker was shot and unresponsive. How horrific. So I'm not going to keep reading the details. It just says Tolson left evidence of the scene at the shooting that led them to Adams as a suspect. He said they went to Adams' parents' home, evacuated them, and then tried to talk Adams out of the house. Eventually, they found him dead of a single gunshot wound in a bedroom. Adams had been treated by Leslie, who lived near his parents' home in Rock Hill. And it just kind of details from there a little bit more about the victims and a little bit more about the suspect. So there you go. Like America, NFL, I know the NFL is like, we got to do something. We got to clean this up somehow, because it said that this guy had, and this is no excuse, I'm not making excuses, but it said that he had suffered, I think, 2 concussions, multiple broken bones over the course of his career. And I think he had some career-ending injury at some point in time. Don't quote me. This is just me going off of what I read earlier today. But yeah, it's not good. Not looking good. Not the first violent act with the NFL either. It's not the first one. So how very unfortunate for everybody involved. Rest in peace to the families of the victim, or to the victims, to the families of the victims. And I hope the families of the suspect are able to find peace around this somehow. I'm going to reserve additional comment only because we don't know necessarily how messed up he was in terms of what football did to his head, in addition to those drugs. So I'm just going to reserve additional comment. Let me stop sharing my screen because it's all choppy on what I'm looking at. I'm going to stop the screen really quick. Let it breathe. And now I'm going to share it again. Okay, share. Come on, you can do it. There you go. Push through. Push. I have such faith in you. Anyway, while it's deciding whether or not it wants to share itself, welcome to everybody in the chat. It's very good to have you. Ooh, it's moving slow as molasses. I shouldn't have moved it. I shouldn't have touched it. Welcome to everybody as you fill in. Happy Friday to you. Here we go. Yep, share this one. Yes. Beautiful. All right, so let's move on, guys. I think that's the last, like, really sad story we have. Let me see. Yeah, that's the last really sad story. So no more no more really like dark stories, okay? We're just going to kind of move on from here and it gets a little bit lighter from here, okay? So you guys may recall from a couple of months ago, a woman got arrested for coughing on a woman who had cancer. And this is back when COVID all first started and the pandemic had all really first started. There was no vaccine in development. And our best measure at the time was masking up, practicing hygiene, and social distancing. And this lady, in the beginning of the show of brattiness, like, God, who knew it would come out in the way that it did? But this was among the beginning opening acts of these people's behavior during this time frame. Well, she coughed on a woman who had cancer in a Pier 1, and she just got sentenced to 30 days in jail. Now, listen, I know a lot of you will say only 30 days. This is what we're talking about. Perfect example. There's no justice, all that. But listen, we have to celebrate wins when we get them. And you have to understand that even one day in jail to a woman like this is like 30 years. And I know it's not equivalent. I would never suggest that it is. All I'm saying is, even one day, 1 hour in a jail for a woman like this is the equivalent of 30 years per day. Because you have to understand that this is more than likely the type of person who didn't ever feel like she would find herself in a situation around those people. Okay? So now she gets to go spend 30 days with those people. She gets to live like those people and be treated like those people, and all during a pandemic. So I think it's beautiful. Would I have liked at least like a year sentence? Yeah, that would have been great. I think a year would have really taught a solid lesson. But I think 30 days is going to traumatize her sufficiently, and I'm satisfied with that. It says a Florida woman whose image went viral when she coughed on a customer at a Pier 1 store last year in the midst of the CV pandemic has been sentenced to 30 days in jail, and you're going to the Duval County Jail. Whew. That's sufficient. A judge in Jacksonville on Thursday also ordered Deborah Hunter to pay a $500 fine, serve 6 months probation, and participate. I'm not laughing. And participate in a mental health evaluation along with anger management. Good. I like this. She was also ordered to cover the cost of the victim's COVID-19 test. Excellent. Hunter received credit for 1 day already served in jail. She was arrested last June after she was recorded deliberately coughing on the other customer during an argument with employees inside the store. According to investigators, the victim, Heather Sprague, had begun recording Hunter's heated encounter with the employees. Hunter saw her and made a rude gesture before walking up and saying she would cough on her. And then she coughed on her, an arrest affidavit said. I'm not laughing at what happened. I'm laughing at the fact that all of that is on the arrest affidavit. Sprague, who's being treated for a brain tumor, told the judge she spent days anxiously searching for a place where she and her family could be tested for CV. The test ended up being negative, which is good. Hunter's husband told the judge they had faced numerous hardships leading up to the incident, including losing everything they had in a house fire. It was like air being inflated into a balloon, and it finally got to the point where she couldn't handle any more air, Hunter's husband said in court. And then she finally rubbed up against something and just popped. Right, okay. Hunter told the judge her family has paid the price for her mistakes, adding that her children continue to lose friends and that they don't go and that they don't go out in their community anymore. I watched as my kids lower their heads and turn the opposite direction so they won't be recognized or approached, she told the judge. And I know exactly what they're feeling because I do the same thing. Wow. She really. Her defense is that she's embarrassed and ashamed, and that she has to bear the burden of her shame every day when she goes out in public. Lady, you coughed on a cancer patient, and she didn't know she was a cancer patient at the time. There probably, well, I don't know if there were any outward indications of such, but it doesn't matter. You coughed on a person whose health you don't have the right to intrude upon in any way. That's why when we get in this conversation, I say I've felt this way since regular colds and flus. I've always felt this way. You don't have the right to give me a cold. You don't have the right to give me a flu. So, how do you think I feel about COVID? So, anyway, you coughed on a woman who happened to be a cancer patient. You could have killed her. So, you kind of deserve this is what you're supposed to feel. This is what teaches people. I bet you her kids may do other things in life, but I bet you they won't ever cough on a stranger in public. I bet you that much. I bet you that much. I bet you they might do other things. They might lick a doorknob or something, but I bet you they won't ever cough on anybody in public. So it's kind of serving its purpose. It says before ordering jail time, Duval County Court Judge James Ruth said she was struck by the fact that Hunter's testimony focused less on how she may have harmed the victim and more on how her actions affected her own family. Bravo, Judge. Bravo. Very nice. That's that narcissism. They need to train all judges on narcissism. All judges on the concept of narcissism. Very nice, Judge. Correct. It says her children didn't create this problem and her husband didn't. And she talked about how it changed her world and how she was getting nasty grams on Facebook and things of that nature. And they can't go to their country club or whatever. I love judges. I love judges. I think they're so funny. Most of them. And they can't go to their country club or whatever, Ruth said. But I've yet to see any expression or a significant expression on her regret about the impact it had on the victim in this case. Sprague said the encounter has left her stunned and fearful. I worried for the health and safety of my children. I wonder how in the world I could possibly isolate to protect them in a household of 12. Oh my God. And if I had been intentionally infected, she told the judge she believes there should be accountability for Hunter's actions, which is why she reported the incident. Honey, if you want to expedite your healing, honey, you got to get out of that house of 12, honey. Like rent a hotel room once a week. On the weekend, like rent a hotel room, like just like every Saturday until you get better, and just take a break. There's too many humans. That would be my recommendation. And no, I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying, how are you going to heal from a brain tumor when you live with 12 people? Anyway, bravo to the judge. I wish she had given her like 60 days or like 90 days or something. But I'll take 30. I'll take it. It's better than nothing. Because understand, she's going to the Duval County Jail. And I know many of you probably don't have any context on that, but Duval County is rough. Duval County is a rough place. And she gets to go be in jail with those people. So I think that's fantastic. Great job, Judge. Great job. And thanks for not buying into her silly little apology or so-called excuse. Do y'all see now the difference between an excuse and like a reason? You know what I mean? Like the husband tried to offer up the excuse that they had just lost everything. And listen, I understand that when people are under extreme stress and extreme trauma, sometimes it can make you act out of character or things like that. But typically people's responses aren't to harm someone else. Like at most, you might cuss somebody out. You might cuss them out, call them names, F off. You might give them the finger. You know what I mean? But you would probably never dream of, and what a weird thing to dream of. It's not like she walked over and just hit her. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're recording me, pow, right to the jaw. You know what I mean? You walked over and coughed on her, which is a very specific type of assault. So I'm glad the judge ordered a mental health evaluation along with anger management. A lot of them need that. You know what I think the government's next act of free should be? So they're doing the freebie vaccine, which is very cute. Good job. Your next act of free should be free mental health evaluations for everyone in the United States of America. Joseph, you still haven't called me, but it's okay. Or maybe you did. I've had quite a few phone calls from numbers I don't recognize lately. So maybe one of those was Joseph, but Joseph, you have to leave a voicemail, honey. I don't recognize, or I don't answer phone numbers I don't recognize. You have to leave a voicemail. But anyway, your next act should be free mental health evaluations for everyone who wants one in the United States of America. Now, they may not be able to follow that up with free mental health care because that's a lot of money. But at minimum, I think that they could foot the bill for free mental health evaluations. So at least you can be told, hey, sir or ma'am, I think you might be a danger to other people. Maybe consider looking into some free resources in your city and state, because I think you might be a danger to yourself. I do. And we might be able to catch things early on, because understand that there's a lot of people who know something's wrong, y'all. They know. They don't know what to call it. They don't know what it is, but they know something ain't right. And if they were offering free mental health screenings, much in the same way that they have these little vaccine sites, have a free mental health screening site, 30 minutes to an hour with a licensed psychiatric evaluator. I'm serious. I think that might be a start. Y'all, let's move on to Amazon. Amazon is in our news break twice today. It says, in an apology, Amazon admits that some drivers have to pee in bottles. The e-commerce giant initially denied U.S. lawmakers' allegations, backtracked as testimonies of practice were spotlighted. E-commerce giant Amazon has apologized to a U.S. lawmaker after falsely denying that some of its drivers are forced at times to urinate in plastic bottles. And that's low-key discriminatory without even meaning to be, because women can't do that. So it's men who are at least able to urinate in a plastic bottle. Now, I'm sure some gifted and talented women could pull off the plastic bottle situation, but I don't think you could do that sitting down. I mean, maybe. Listen, I don't know your life, okay? All I'm saying is that this is probably men doing this, which means that women didn't even have the option to pee in a bottle. So what were the women doing is what I'm basically saying. If the men were out here peeing in plastic bottles, what were the female Amazon drivers doing when they had to go? It says the flap started last week with a tweet from Mark Pocan, a Democrat from Wisconsin. It says paying workers $15 an hour doesn't make you a progressive workplace when you union bust and make workers urinate in water bottles, Pocan tweeted. In an apparent reference to Amazon's opposition to efforts to unionize a major facility in Alabama. It says Amazon's official account quickly responded saying, "You don't really believe the peeing in bottles thing, do you? If that were true, nobody would work for us." You see how they lie? You see how lying is the first instinct? It says, but several news media then cited numerous Amazon employees who said they had, in fact, been left with little choice but to use plastic bottles. And the website, The Intercept, said it had obtained internal documents. Okay, you're just going to reset my page for me. Okay, thank you. Where was I? Dang. That was weird. I don't even know where I was. Blah, blah, blah. Here it is. Had obtained internal documents showing Amazon executives were aware of the practice. Okay. So anyway, long story short, you guys, Amazon's work schedules are so crushing. The drivers are under such strict schedules. Plus, remember, they just had to sign basically permission slips or lose their job saying, I agree to let Amazon monitor my biometrics. So monitoring which way your eyes are turning, monitoring when you're yawning, monitoring if your seatbelt is on or not, monitoring if you're coming to stop signs hard, like if you're doing hard stops, or if you're gently coming to the stop and stopping. So not only are you under like a certain crush to deliver a certain number of packages per day, but you're also being monitored in your biometrics. And you're really not allowed to do things like stop and take bathroom breaks. You're really not. Like you kind of are, but not really. Or you risk not hitting your quota for the day. So some of these people resorted to peeing in plastic bottles. And to my dear Amazon workers, whew, like I hope one day the fear leaves you and you have the courage to quit a situation like this. You are not a robot. You are a human being. Okay. Amazon can afford to hire more drivers. Amazon could afford to have their own fleet. So you know how they contract out a lot of the work to like other contractors who have the vans and stuff? Amazon could afford to own and maintain their own fleet of drivers. So please don't feel sorry for these people. Their bottom line is to make as much money as possible. Jeff Bezos is a trip. Is he a trillionaire or a billionaire? Is Bezos a trillionaire or a billionaire? At any rate, he has a lot of money, okay? They can afford to double the delivery force. They really could. So you do not have to accept being treated like anything less than a human being, because I'd lose that job, honey. They'd be like, hello, paging PTE, where are you? We see your van is stopped. And I say, hello, hi, yes, I had to pee. Do you have any more questions? Well, it appears that you've been stopped for 7 minutes. Does it take you that long to pee? Well, yeah, I had to find parking. Then when I had to find parking, I walked up into the building, and then there was actually people already in the stalls. So I had to wait in line, and then I went, and then I washed my hands and walked back to the car. It took about 7 minutes total. Oh, I'd lose my little delivery job within a day, because you're not going to tell me I can't pee. Or you're going to make me get creative and have some sort of little bucket situation set up in the back. And you're not going to like that. You will not like that. I'm telling you. I'll do like a camp style bucket. I will secure that bad boy somehow, bungee it down to the truck somehow to make sure it doesn't spill over. Oh, yeah, gross, right? Yeah, exactly. But that's what you have pushed us to. Peeing in bottles? Like, how low level? That's so low level. Amazon, do better. Okay. Right. Yeah. And let's not even talk about number two. Like, I'd lose my little job, honey, and I'd lose it proudly. And if an employer asks me, oh, it looks like you work for Amazon, what happened? I'm say, listen, my bladder is on a biological schedule. My bladder doesn't care about Amazon's clock. Like, it doesn't care about your man-made clock. My bladder is on a biological schedule. Anyway, moving on. I just wanted you all to know that the doorman who closed the door on that Asian woman who got attacked in New York City both got fired. Okay. That's the long story short. Okay. Let's see. No go. Maybe I'll try that little Starlink. Isn't that Elon's thing that's supposed to be like a satellite internet thing? I think I'm going to try Starlink because I can't with this. I'm hardwired in. I'm not even on Wi-Fi. And you see this? Anyway, 2 doormen were fired after a man attacked an Asian woman on the sidewalk outside their building in late March. And rather than intervening or going out immediately afterward to help her, they closed the door. I think we watched that together. I think we saw that. Or maybe I think we talked about that and we didn't. But many of you did see that, okay? The Brodsky organization, which owns the condo building in question, fired the workers on Tuesday, saying in a statement to the media that required emergency and safety protocols were not followed during the incident. Okay. So that's the long story short. And both of these employees have filed a grievance challenging their terminations. Like, I hope they deny that little grievance. And for those who may not have seen, well, I'm not going to show it because it's actually pretty bad. The attack is pretty bad. The door closing comes at the end. And it's just so cold, y'all. It's like they stood there and watched it happen. They watched this grown man attack this woman, this smaller framed woman, but it wouldn't matter if she was the same size as him. They sat here and watched this grown man attack this woman. And then when it was over and he walked off, instead of them going to check on her, help her, these are security guards. So do you know if this man is like a danger to the building? Like they just looked like they were going back to their conversation. They didn't look like they were rushed, like, okay, lock the front door, lock the side doors, like, okay, secure the building because we don't know what's going on right now. It was just kind of like oh, look, a lady got beat up. Close the door. So it was pretty cold and callous. And as a result, they lost their job. So, yeah, you got to be a little kinder, guys. So I'll be very curious to see whether or not they are successful on their grievance, but I seriously doubt it. Because you kind of can't be trusted to do the right thing in an emergency situation. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit, you guys. And I think this is interesting. And it kind of makes me laugh, so forgive me. Let me take a sip of my water. Welcome, everybody. We did watch that together? Okay, I thought so. Y'all see how my memory is, right? I thought so, though. So, yeah, so y'all saw it. So, guys, check this out. A new Utah law requires dads to pay prenatal child support. A new Utah law will require biological fathers to pay half of a woman's out-of-pocket pregnancy costs. Oh, God. Biological fathers in Utah will be legally required to pay half of a woman's out-of-pocket pregnancy costs under a new law unique to the state that critics say doesn't do enough to adequately address maternal health care needs. The bill's sponsor has presented the measure as an effort to decrease the burden of pregnancy on women and increase responsibility for men who have children. But some critics argue the new legislation won't help women who are most vulnerable and could make abusive situations even more dangerous for pregnant women. Utah appears to be the first state to mandate prenatal child support, according to the state's Planned Parenthood Association and the bill's sponsor. But a few states, including Wisconsin and New York, have provisions that can result in fathers being financially responsible for pre-birth expenses. Woo! It says Governor Spencer Cox, a Republican, recently signed a proposal which received widespread support in the GOP-controlled legislature. Republican Representative Brady Brammer said he decided to sponsor the measure because he had grown frustrated with the number of anti-abortion measures going through the legislature and wanted to pursue legislation that would make it easier to bring life into the world. We want to help people and actually be pro-life and how we do it as opposed to anti-abortion. One of the ways to help with that was to help the burden of pregnancy be decreased. The bill would apply to a pregnant woman's health insurance premiums and any pregnancy-related medical costs. It says if the paternity of the child is disputed, fathers won't be required to pay until after paternity is established. The father also wouldn't be financially responsible for the cost of an abortion received without his consent unless it's necessary to prevent the death of a mother or if the pregnancy was the result of RAPE. Okay? So I'm not going to read the rest. I am going to link it for you, but wow, you guys. So first of all, I wanted to highlight and land on, where is it? Where did it go? I found this very interesting because I felt like somebody's been listening to something. I think they're starting to get the message that they've never been pro-life, ever. So as much as I don't like and don't support Republicans, I'm kind of in alignment with them on this, you guys. I think it's creative. I think it's different. And it kind of makes sense in a way. Like, it is your baby after all. And there are pre-birth expenses. Now, we already know the backlash from this is going to be massive, massive. And they do bring up a very valid point. And they said that people who are kind of against it, here, right here, the critics, said that it won't help women who are most vulnerable and could make abusive situations even more dangerous. But here's my thought process on that. If a man is so violent, well, let me rephrase. If a man suddenly becomes violent or more violent because he's made to help take care of prenatal expenses, you were already in a dangerous situation. You already were. That was just maybe the Kickstarter for you. But if it wasn't going to be that, it would have been something else later on down the line. We often hear about violence against women and children and pregnant women specifically. So if that sets him off, you were already in trouble, my dear. So if that is the case, to the best of your ability, get into a safe situation before that baby is born, because you're already not safe, is what I'm trying to say. So, in other words, if this law does not go through, which I think it did, or no, the bill went through. Hold on, let me reread. Sorry. No, it's a new law. It's a law. A new Utah law will require biological fathers pay half of a woman's out of pocket pregnancy costs. So, if this law was enough to make him get violent with you, you were already in trouble. Okay? So, it's not that I don't agree, but what I'm saying is, it's kind of like saying, well, let's not pass this law because we don't want to set them off. And I'm like, if they're set off by something like this, they're already going to be set off by something in the future. You're already in trouble. Okay. But this should be very interesting, you guys. And I wonder if it will have the intended effect, which is, I think that the intended effect is they already don't want to pay child support as it is once the baby's here. So if they have to pay pre child support, maybe they will think twice about who they get pregnant. Maybe they will save pregnancy for their wives. I mean, it's pretty simple. Maybe the men are the people in Utah getting down like that? I didn't think y'all were getting it in like that in Utah. Too spread out up there. How do y'all even find each other? I'm sorry. That's a stereotype. I'm sorry. If there's people in Utah, PTE, that means they're finding each other. But wow, like I wouldn't expect something like this to pass in a state like Utah, maybe like Arizona or Nevada even, but Utah? What y'all got going on in Utah to where this is even on their mind? But I do think we'll see more of this. I think we'll see more of this pass across different states in the country. But this should be very interesting. And once the manosphere gets a hold of this, oh, they're going to have a complete nuclear meltdown. They are going to have a complete meltdown once they get hold of this story. They're not going to like this because they already don't like child support. So you have to pay for 9 months ahead of time, half of all the expenses associated with the baby that you're going to have to pay for anyway. They're going to have a nuclear meltdown. I can't wait. I'm actually pretty excited. All right, you guys, let's move on to our COVID update. It's a bike ride away in Utah. Man. All right, y'all. It says 1 in 3 people who survive COVID-19 are left with brain disease or psychiatric disorders, says a new study. It says anxiety and mood disorders were the most common issues among past COVID-19 patients, but more research is needed to know why. Let's see. This looks like one Okay. So, and there have been murmurings of this for a while, but I think now it's starting to get really confirmed. It says researchers are continuing to study the long term effects of COVID 19. And now there's evidence to suggest that a third of COVID 19 survivors are struggling with brain disease or other psychiatric disorders. That's the major takeaway from new research published in the Lancet Psychiatry on Tuesday. The study analyzed data over a 6 month period from 236,379 patients who were diagnosed with COVID 19. The researchers discovered that 34% of COVID 19 survivors had a diagnosis from either a neurological or psychological condition within 6 months after they were infected. Mm. A little more than 17% of those patients were diagnosed with anxiety, while 14% were diagnosed with some form of mood disorder. A smaller number of former patients experienced brain hemorrhaging, stroke, or dementia, all of which can be considered types of brain disease, y'all. Mm. The incidences were higher the more severe a person's COVID 19 illness. Okay, so listen, hold on. This got me to thinking, right? Because it's like, okay, severe neurological, no, excuse me, neurological disorders, psychiatric disorders, anxiety issues after a bout with this particular virus, right? Even dementia. It makes me wonder. So, one of the questions that we posed often on this channel is, why has narcissism grown in America, in our society? Why has narcissism grown? You guys, what if not necessarily COVID 19 has come through before already, but some version of it has come through already? And we wrote it off as a cold, or we wrote it off as a really bad flu season, when really it was some version of this. And what if it damaged like millions of people when it came through? And that's why we're seeing such a rise in narcissistic behavior, violent incidents. People are just acting completely insane. Like, we've literally been talking about it the whole time this channel has been up, just trying to figure out what's happening here. Like, why such a rise when so much of what narcissism does is counterintuitive. It goes against logic. It goes against reason. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, why would anyone do that? It's almost like they're being driven by something else. We've talked about that before, right? And you know what else it made me think of? And this is kind of gross, and I actually hate thinking about this, but I have to bring it up because it goes with this example. But have you guys heard of God, what is it? It's a fungus that they call it, like, it's like a zombie fungus or something. And it targets ants. And once it gets in the ants, it takes over their brain and literally makes them do stuff. Have y'all heard of that before? God, what's that stuff? I'm not pulling it up because it is literally, if you gross out easily, don't Google that. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. It's so disgusting. One of the nastiest things I've ever seen, and one of the nastiest things I've ever heard about. Truly. But it takes over the ant and it makes it start doing things for it. And so, if that exists in nature, and you got COVID out here leaving people with brain diseases and psychiatric disorders, which I really think we need to be very concerned about this, you guys. Very concerned about this. Because it's kind of like, my questions become, is this an evolving psychiatric disorder? Is it stagnant? Does it leave? Like, are you anxious and depressed for a little while, then it goes away? Or does it stay with you? Is this a lifelong thing? And what does this psychiatric disorder evolve into? What could it ultimately end up looking like? Okay. But it also makes me wonder about that. It is called the zombie fungus. Oh, you actually got the name. Ophiocordyceps. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember the name. Ew, it's so nasty. It's so nasty. It's one of those things that makes me go, God, why? God, why? Why did you make that? That's so nasty. And God might be going, I don't have anything to do with that at all. It's real gross, but it does serve to my ultimate point, which is what if some 10 or 20 years ago, something came through, some virus, something came through, and lots of people caught it. We shook it off as a bad cold, bad flu, and it altered their brain in such a way that mimics narcissism, basically. Like the end result is that it shuts down or powers down like your empathetic center and makes you a cold-blooded narc, basically. Because haven't we talked about how many of the people we know have essentially turned? Remember we talk about them turning? And we're like, what happened to this person? You were not always like this. Like, how did you become this? What happened was wrong kind of situation. What if this is what's going on, y'all? We might need to talk about this more on my other channel, A Deeper PTE, if you're not subscribed. Okay. So let's continue on before I fall down that rabbit hole. I already got one foot in, but keep your eyes out for this, y'all. Pay attention to this stuff, okay? Let's move on. What's the next story? Oh, yes. So long story short, I'm not reading all of this. 500 million Facebook users' personal data is on the website for hackers, okay? And so Facebook basically has undergone a major hack. 500 million people have been exposed, hacked again, basically. And somewhere I read that Mark Zuckerberg was trying to blame old people or blame us for it. And I can't find it. I don't think it's in this article. I read it somewhere else. But he says essentially it's our fault. And I'm not sure how or why, because I didn't read the article. But y'all, it might just be time to say goodbye to Facebook. We might have to have like a Facebook mourning party. Because it's hard. It's like, dang, you feel like you're deleting like your past in a way. But you can download your data. You just can't access it in the same way. Like you can't pull it up on Facebook once you delete it. But it might be time to let go and say goodbye, because it's just not, y'all can't keep it secure. All this money, all these software engineers, data engineers, y'all can't keep the thing secure. Like it won't be long before they just hologram into our living room through Facebook. Like your phone is just sitting on the counter, and next thing you know, there's a little hologram popped up out of your phone with some hacker giving you orders and shutting down things in your house if you don't comply. So it might just be time. I think it's time for me to say goodbye. Okay. So some of you lost your innocence with that zombie fungus. I'm so sorry. It's one of the worst things that's ever happened to me in terms of things I've stumbled upon. And I just wish I could take that day back, because I did not need to know that. Stuff like that, I don't need to know. I'm already a germaphobe as it is. So I don't need to know there's zombie fungus out there that takes over your brain and makes you do things for it. Ugh, I can't think about it. Guys, don't look it up. I'm telling you, don't let your morbid curiosity get the best of you. You will hate me and you'll hate yourself too. All right. So let's move on. Amazon again. Amazon is buying dead malls, and the reason why is fascinating. It's not that fascinating. They're going to turn them into distribution centers. Now, I actually think this is pretty cool, you guys. The only other thing I would like to see happen to balance this out is, what if they turned all these dead, abandoned malls into housing, you guys? Housing. Wouldn't that be like the coolest thing ever? They're always trying to get us stacked up on each other as it is. They're always trying to shove us and force us into community life and community lifestyles. Okay. So why not? The distribution center is cool. That should be really neat. Can't wait to see what you do with the escalators. Awesome. But why not turn these storefronts into housing? Would that not be the coolest thing ever? Like, can't you imagine people wanting to live in that type of situation? Now, I personally wouldn't, but like if I was a rich person or a young person, like super young, like early 20s, like mid 20s, I can see myself wanting to live in that. Like your house, or I don't know what you would call it, apartment, condo, is like an old Claire's or something, an old hollowed out Claire's, an old hollowed out Zales. You have really cool doors. Like everyone's house is going to look a little different because every storefront was different. It's deep. Most of them have at least sinks, so y'all can get toilets in there and showers. That should be no problem. Um, and like you live in like this kind of like space agey, like virtual, like mall housing thing. Do you guys see the vision? They've already done it in London. Yes. Can you imagine living in the hollowed out Macy's? Now, see, if I was a rich or wealthy woman, well, yes, darling, give me the hollowed out Macy's. Yes. We'll have multiple floors, darling. We'll have an entertainment floor, darling. An entertainment floor, a private suite. Hopefully, they'll do something with the rooftops so we can go up there and have ourselves little patio areas. Can you imagine waving to your patio neighbors from the hollowed out Macy's? Yes, darling. Guest rooms. And then, yeah, like big hallways, exactly. Marble floor. Yes, y'all are seeing the vision. Let's move into the 21st century, darling. Like, I actually think this would be kind of cool. Like, they would have to soundproof it because I imagine sound would be an issue, not upstairs and downstairs, because those malls are pretty solid. So even if you live below somebody, I don't think you would ever hear them because you don't ever hear people walking upstairs in the mall when you're downstairs. You might. I've never heard it though. But they'd have to find a way to soundproof the front to where when everyone's out and about and kind of walking the main mall or the community stroll area, the communal garden, they're not making noise when you're in your house trying to take a nap. You see what I mean? Or maybe we would just tell people, don't come here looking for silence. Come here if you're the type of person who likes activity and all that. Anyway, these are the types of things I think about. And I would love to see them do that for standard housing for, middle class and, the people who got money, because they're always going to reach their hand in there. But I'd also like to see them do this for low income and homeless housing. So take some of these abandoned strip malls, these abandoned dead malls that nobody goes to anymore, and convert them into safe, clean housing for individuals who are either homeless temporarily or homeless, period, or people who are low income and just want somewhere nice to live that's safe and clean that they can afford for now. Something like that. Most malls have like hundreds, and I think some malls have at least like 1,000 stores in them. You can do it. Make it happen. It's better than it, excuse me, it's better than it just sitting there doing nothing, collecting dust. I would much rather see them be utilized. So I'd like to see them build out the one that's quote unquote regular housing for quote unquote regular people. And I'd like to see them build out housing for low income and homeless. Just convert all these little storefronts, convert them. Those people would be beyond grateful for something like that. Beyond grateful. And like on the cold, when weather is real bad, can you imagine like these massive malls? All these little areas have been converted. They come, they check in, you get a key, you get told what unit you're going to, I guess you could call them. We can name them something better than unit. You go to your unit, you go in your little unit, you close the door or let the little thing down, and you have housing for the night. And it's safe and it's clean, no questions asked. Maybe the only stipulation is you have to get out by like a certain time frame the next day so we can clean it. So if it's homeless housing, you come in, you stay overnight, and maybe by like 1 p.m. you have to be gone so we can clean it. But these are just the things I think about and the types of things I would do with my money if I was super rich. Let's move on. Y'all, I got more weird things to tell you about. Okay. There is a strange illness going on in the children of Syrian refugees. Is it Syrian? I'm sorry. It may not be Syria. I'm sorry. Let's just go ahead and read it. It says, mystery of sleeping refugee children who shut down in coma-like state. Okay. It says, children from refugee families in Sweden are mysteriously falling into coma-like states and not waking up for years. The condition, called resignation syndrome, has baffled doctors as tests on the kid's brain show they are responsive to waking and sleeping despite seemingly being unconscious. According to reports, the mystery illness was first seen in, I'm sorry, it wasn't Syria, it was Sweden. Seen in Sweden in the 1990s, but grew rapidly by the mid 2000s. Between 2003 and 2005, 424 cases were reported, and hundreds more children have since been struck down with the syndrome. What's bizarre about the condition is that it only affects kids from refugee families in one country in the world. Neurologist Suzanne O'Sullivan traveled to Stockholm to study two sisters suffering from the condition. It says, describing the onset of the symptoms, children initially became anxious and depressed, then their behavior changed, then they stopped playing with other children and over time stopped playing altogether. They slowly withdrew themselves and soon they couldn't go to school. They spoke less and less until they didn't speak at all, and then eventually they took to bed. And if they entered the deepest stage, they could no longer eat or open their eyes. They become completely immobile. They ceased having any active participation in the world. And I was going to say, it's almost like they go back into the womb mentally. Like, isn't this crazy? It's almost like they regress to their fetal state, where basically all you did in your fetal state was sit around and sleep all day, kind of, sort of. Like half in, half out of conscious, definitely alive, but you don't know it yet. So anyway, they think it's related to trauma. You know me, I think it's related to something else, but it's only affecting this one group. I don't know where I got Syria from. It's in Sweden though, not Syria. But yeah, so the article goes on. I will link this for you eventually, but noted. Put a thumbtack in that. I don't know why this has my attention the way it does. I just think it's so interesting. But basically, honey, they fall asleep and don't wake back up, but they are still very much alive. And they're not in a coma, they're in a coma-like state. So to me, I'm like, that's almost like you going back to the womb, honey. It's almost like they came out and said, oh my God, this world is so stressful, I'm going back in utero. And they do. And I think they said oh no, you know what? There was more I wanted to read to you guys. It's kind of freaky. Hold on, where was it? It's further down. This is kind of freaky. So if you have nightmares easily, maybe mute for the next 30 seconds. I'll give you a second to mute. Okay, hopefully they're muted. So they interviewed some of the kids that woke up, right? And one kid said he felt as if he were in a glass box with fragile walls deep in the ocean. And if he spoke or moved, he thought it would create a vibration which would cause the glass to shatter. And then the water would pour in and kill me. So basically, like, he was aware. They said it was like being in a dream that they can't wake up from. But wasn't that description crazy? I won't read it again just in case somebody's unmuting now. Because I know some people like freak easily and have like weird nightmares very easily. So I didn't want to read that just in case you do. So they're not exactly unaware. They know something's going on, but they can't quite like break out of that dream state. Is that not crazy? Let's keep going. We got two more stories, guys, and then we're getting out of here. Welcome to everybody. Yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on, y'all. Crazy stuff. Okay. Oh no, I traumatized somebody with the zombie fungus. I'm so sorry. I tried to get you not to do it, man. I tried to get you to step away from the ledge, man. I tried. Nobody warned me, so I wanted to warn you, but you went in there. I'm sorry. I hope you're able to get it out of your mind soon. So apparently people saw a weird string of lights over Texas and Oklahoma, I think, was the other one. It says a mysterious string of white lights appears to have caught the eyes of many North Texans Wednesday night. NBC received numerous emails and pictures showing what appeared to be a long line of lights tracking across the sky around 9 p.m. Viewers were left perplexed and bemused. Let's see if we can get a little video of it. Ciao. Y'all got too much going on, honey. Volcanoes are erupting. Lights are shooting across the sky. The kids won't wake up. What is this?
That was the moment SpaceX launched that rocket. The right thing. You sent us video of what you saw, and he did the right thing. The skies last night and saw those satellites, and he did the right thing. You sent us video of what you saw. This came to us from Dash Calzone.
Believe you. I don't believe you. You're lying. I don't want to watch what's next.
In my opinion, the physiology.
You're lying, guys. And here's how I believe they're lying, okay? If this were the Starlink satellites, I feel like Starlink would tell us, hey guys, tonight you might see some weird things in the sky, probably in the Texas, Oklahoma area. It will probably resemble a long line of flashing lights. If you see this, do not be alarmed, for they are just the Starlink satellites. Thanks for participating in this historic moment as we bring you space internet. I don't know, but it's always after the fact. People see something weird and it's like, oh, that was NASA. You see something else weird. Oh, that was Elon and the SpaceX. Really? That's so weird. My internet is doing strange things. Strange things. I'm sorry. I thought it would be resolved when we went on the cord, but it looks like even the cord is not having it. But anyway, I feel like they would tell us these things. Right. I feel like they would tell us these things ahead of time, but they don't. It's always after the fact. You didn't think we would see this? Why is it turning all kinds of different directions? You said satellites as if there's more than one. Well, how come they're not all broken apart? How come they're all in the same? Honey, that is a line. Where's the satellite part? That's going to bring me my internet service? Is it going to stay there every night? Is it always going to look like, look at this, y'all. Come on, man. So I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But we'll be keeping our eyes on the skies. Apparently, we're supposed to have a pink moon at some point in time. So we shall see. Why don't we close out with this? And this is going to end our news break for April 9th, 2021. But Elon Musk's Neuralink shows a monkey playing with a brain chip. Shows monkey with brain chip playing video game by thinking. Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk's brain chip startup. Wow, he's really serious about this. He is pushing forward. Released footage on Friday, appearing to show a monkey playing a simple video game after getting implants of the new technology. The 3-minute video by Neuralink here shows Pager, a male macaque, with chips embedded on each side of its brain, playing Mind Pong. Although he was trained to move a joystick, it is now unplugged. He controls the paddle simply by thinking about moving his hand up or down. Let's see. We'll watch this, but I'm going to mute it so we don't get hit. Yeah, there's supposed to be a pink moon. Oh, he's kind of cute. But he's got his mouth on the thing, though. So is the mouth helping? Oh, no. Okay, so he has the joystick right now. Okay. He's got the joystick. This looks different. Let's see here. Okay, at what point did they take away the joystick? See if we can expedite this. He's got the joystick. Oh, hold on. It's down here. Okay. So the joystick is gone, but he's still got his hand on this little metal thing and his mouth on it too. Let's see if they're going to take away the metal thing. If so, then that's when I'm going to get concerned. Because that metal thing, I mean, this could be anything, honey. They could have that computer program to do anything. Take away the metal thing. Let's see. No, it looks like he keeps it the whole time. So the claim is that this is happening in the monkey's brain and the monkey's moving it with his brain, but I won't believe it until you take the metal thing away. Okay? So, but just the fact that they're teeter-tottering with this is kind of bothersome, because you already know, like, it's intended to be used for people like paraplegics and people who've been injured and have different spinal cord injuries. And if that's the use, that's awesome. I think that's great. That's what technology is supposed to be for. But you already know that the same thing that happens with everything good that they do is that they're going to turn it into a way to sell us something. Sales, like they'll be able to basically run ads in your brain. You know what I mean? Or you walk into a grocery store and you find yourself walking to the cereal aisle. You're compelled and you don't know why. Like, why am I going to the cereal aisle? Why am I picking up this box? Why am I putting my basket? I don't need cereal. What am I doing? And before you know it, you just bought cereal and you don't know why. Like, I don't like where this has the potential to go. I really don't. Like, think about what an employer could do. If they want you at your desk and they have control over your brain chip, at your desk you shall be. Like, dang, I really want to get up, but I can't. My employer doesn't take me out of my seat till 12 noon. And then if you are not where you're supposed to be by the time your lunch break is over, you just suddenly start walking in that direction and you don't know why. You could be sitting at the table and you just find yourself standing up. You're like, oh, okay, I guess it's time for me to go. Guys, I'll see you later. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. So, yeah, guys, this is where we are. They're playing around with brain chips. They claim the monkeys can play video games and all that with them now. So we shall see where this is going. But I do know one thing. I know a lot of the heads of big tech are afraid of technology and where it's going. So if the leaders of big tech are afraid and they won't let their children play with or experience big tech, that should tell you something. But like I've said before, I'm not worried about these people. They can't even get autocorrect yet. Like, I feel like my phone by now should be able to pick up on my pattern of speech and the way I write and the way I text so well that essentially it can complete my sentences. And yes, I know they have that technology, like email has it, a lot of text messages where you can swipe or hit tab and it'll finish the sentence or what it thinks you might say. But what I mean is a deep understanding. Y'all have had access to our information for years now. You should practically be able to write an entire response on my behalf because you know what type of words I use. You know the way that I put my sentences together because the phone or whatever has been observing and recording and writing its own little algorithm. It can't even do that. Like, it can't even throw up the words that I might use next in a predictable fashion. So I ain't worried about these people. They still don't know what we need yet. The day that they start knowing what we really need and truly meeting our needs is the day that I will become afraid, okay? But with that, you guys, I appreciate you all so much for joining. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I was going to do another show tonight, but now I'm tired. I've talked myself sleepy and I'm hungry. So I'm going to go satisfy all those needs. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll try to come on tomorrow because I do have a show. Tucker is going to make his first appearance on the channel tomorrow because I have a video clip of his that I want to share with you guys. So that one and another one. So we'll be talking about that. But until then, take care and have a great weekend. We'll talk again soon.